All right, welcome to The Explainer. Today we're digging into a really powerful economic strategy, one that's all about creating national growth. And to see how it works on the ground, we're going to zero in on Bolivia.
So here's the big question, right? It's a challenge so many countries face. When you're up against these huge economic giants, how do you even begin to compete? How do you carve out your own success story? And for a country like Bolivia, this question is especially critical.
I mean, think about it. With a population just over 11 million, its internal market is pretty small. There just aren't enough customers at home to really power major economic growth by itself. So if the answer isn't inside your own borders, you've got to look elsewhere. And that means the country's whole game plan for growth has to be about what it can sell to the rest of the world. Success really depends on exports, on building solid trade relationships, especially with its neighbors. But to do that, you can't just wing it. You need a really organized, powerful strategy.
And that brings us to the core idea of this whole explainer, the productive cluster. This isn't just about one or two companies doing well. We're talking about building an entire economic ecosystem.
So what exactly is a productive cluster? Well, think of it like a hub. It's this dense concentration of businesses, their suppliers, maybe some research centers, and even public institutions, all packed together and focused on one specific industry. You know, like agriculture or technology. They all work together, but they also compete, which pushes everyone to get better and more innovative.
And this quote just nails it. The source material uses this fantastic metaphor, and it perfectly explains their power. The market, the demand for a product, that's the locomotive pulling the entire economic train. When there's strong international demand, it doesn't just help the main company. It literally pulls the entire chain of suppliers, services, and jobs right along with it.
Okay, let's look at a real-world example of this in action. When the soy industry took off in Bolivia's Santa Cruz region, it wasn't just about growing soy. A whole ecosystem exploded around it. All of a sudden, there was this massive demand for fertilizers, for new machinery and people to fix it, for banks to finance it all, and for trucks and trains to move it. It even boosted other crops that grew alongside it. This one single product became the engine for a whole regional economy.
So if the soy cluster is a proven model, the next logical question is, where else can we do this? And that's where this idea becomes the foundation for a much bigger national strategy. Bolivia has some other incredible potential clusters, but, each one comes with its own unique puzzle. Take something like quinoa or camelid fibers. These are iconic Bolivian products, but as they get more popular, foreign competition heats up. So the only way forward is through innovation, creating higher value goods, not just selling the raw material. Then you've got forestry. Its challenge is almost existential. How do you have a forestry industry while also tackling a deforestation crisis? The only answer is a full-on commitment to sustainable management. And for a young tech sector, it's got no chance against global players without smart public policy to help it get off the ground.
And let's be really clear. The main engine for the country is still that agro-industrial cluster. It's huge, making up 17% of the country's entire GDP. But even that engine has some serious issues, like being dependent on imported supplies, think fertilizers and seeds, and those ongoing environmental worries about deforestation. This is exactly where strategy becomes so important. A successful cluster doesn't just pop up out of nowhere. It needs a clear plan, and it requires the government to play a very specific part. Now, this is a really crucial point about the role of the state. It's probably not what you're thinking. The idea isn't for the government to create its own state-run companies to compete. No. Its job is to be a facilitator, to support the private companies and entrepreneurs who are already out there, making them more competitive and ready for the world market. So, how does the state do that? Well, it boils down to 4 key actions, kind of like a recipe. First, you invest in infrastructure, the basic roads and power grids that every industry needs to survive. Then, you fuel innovation by funding research and actually getting that new tech into the hands of the producers. Once you have better products, you have to guarantee quality control so they meet international standards. And finally, the state acts like the country's #1 salesperson, promoting these products and opening doors on the world stage. When you put all of these pieces together, the clusters, the support for private business, the strategic investments, it's all pushing toward this single, really powerful vision.
The goal is to build a Bolivia that's not just modern and competitive, but also sustainable. One that balances economic growth with social well-being and, of course, taking care of the environment.
And that leaves us with one final thought to chew on. This focused, collaborative approach, building economic engines from the ground up, is this a blueprint that other developing nations could actually follow to find their own place in the global economy? It's a pretty powerful question. Thanks for joining us on The Explainer.